Yeah.
Okay, good. I see Joe has just started the recording of the meeting. Thank you, Joe. As I'm chairing this morning, I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's Bus Advisory Board and remind you that this board is not subject to 1972 Local Government Act, and therefore we can continue to take place virtually on Teams. It's only the board members that are taking any decisions at this meeting. Others in attendance are there to provide advice to the board. The agenda and papers have been published on the council's website in advance of the meeting, and the council will be making a recording of the meeting, and this will be published on the council's YouTube channel and website in due course. Just to say that today's meeting is being run virtually by Teams. Other elected members and officers may join remotely and and speak on specific agenda items or observe. Other members of the public and partners can observe the meeting remotely via Teams also. There is also some provision for members of the public to speak at the meeting via public questions or statements that have been submitted in advance, and we'll touch on those in a second. And I should further highlight just the good practice of the meeting, if you wouldn't mind, please. So please use the meeting chat function only for purposes of this meeting, primarily to indicate to myself that you wish to speak. Please only speak at my invitation after raising your hand virtually. Please say your name before speaking, and please turn off microphones and cameras when not speaking. If you wouldn't mind, please. It just helps us to know who's speaking and keep the focus in that space. Thank you. I'll now ask for any apologies for absence from Joe, if you wouldn't mind, please, Joe.
Yep, we've had apologies for absence from Councillor Richard Wilkins, Richard Gibson from Cross County Trains, and Josh Strickland from Hatch Green Coaches.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any other apologies that anybody needs to note while we're here? No. So moving on to item 3 on the agenda, item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 25th of June 2024. I'm looking for anyone to confirm that the notes are accurate, please, and to approve those notes of that previous meeting. Would anybody like to confirm that for me?
Yes, I'm happy to do that, Peter Travis.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, Lee Jones, I'll second that. Sunita.
Thank you. So move on to item 3, public questions. There have been no questions or statements submitted by the members of the public in advance of this meeting, so there is nothing to report on this item today. And very swiftly moving on to item 4 today, which is the bus service improvement plan update, and I'd like to invite Natasha Bates to provide an update on the BSIP schemes to date.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Natasha Bates, Service Commissioning Manager for Passenger Transport within Somerset Council. I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Is everyone else getting feedback there?
Yeah, can I ask people just check that their mics are on or muted, please?
Thank you. So bear with me, just finding the right screen. Right, hopefully you can see that presentation on the screen. Yep,
I can.
Lovely. Perfect. All right, so I'm just going to run through just where we are with the BSIP schemes update. I think we said we'll try and do this as a regular item just to keep everybody up to date on where we are. So I'm going to start off with the revenue BSIP schemes, and the first one is the £1 fare on the park and ride. So you will probably recall this was introduced back in September 2022. And that was following a period of free fares on the park and ride. So we had quite significant roadworks in the town centre, and so we had free fares on the park and ride for about a year. And then rather than returning back to the normal fares, we were able to put in the £1 fare, which is £1 single, £2 return. And the aim of that was to try and retain as many passengers as we possibly could. So you'll see from the graph on the screen that the £1 fare was introduced here, where this yellow yellow bar is, and then the patronage has kind of grown from there and pretty much stabilized. It's done well. We had a slight kind of dip at the beginning of the year, but the patronage is climbing again and appears to be doing really well. So all good with that scheme. And then moving on to the £1, £1.50 Taunton Fair. So this was introduced in December of 2022. And you'll see from the dark blue line here, that's 2019, so pre-COVID levels. And then once the £1 fare came in in December, we've seen a steady increase in patronage during that time. Obviously, that did really well, almost too well, because we had to review the scheme within the funding that we had available to us, and we had to realign the fare, so it's now a £1.50 fare in the Taunton area. You can see from the green line, which is 2024, we had a slight peak in March, which is about right compared to other years, and then things have slowed down, but the £1.50 fare came in June, and so we haven't actually seen the results of that as yet. We're waiting for the final or the last quarter of data to come through. So we've had some data, just not all of it, and what we are seeing is showing that actually things are doing well, and that patronage is continuing to increase again now, so that's good. And then moving on to evening services. So evening services were introduced 30th of January 2023, and through the BSIP we are funding additional journeys on existing commercial routes. So there's 5 routes where we're funding those journeys up until around 11 o'clock in the evening. And you can see from the graph that all of those services have seen an increase in patronage since those evening journeys went in, but in particular the 21 has done particularly well, followed by the 28 and the 22. So that's just an overview of where we are with those. And then moving on to the final revenue scheme, which is the Somerton Digital Demand Responsive Transport, so DDRT. That's our kind of newest scheme. It was only launched in May of this year, so it's only been running a few months really. But as you can see from the graph, in June, which was our first full month, we had around 150 passenger trips during that month, and that has steadily risen. And in the last full month we've had, so September, we had 500 passenger journeys. So really pleased with how that's progressing. We've got funding on that particular scheme until March of 2026, so we had DfT approval to be able to extend the funding for this one. So we'll see how the trial goes, and we will be doing a lot more work with our comms team to promote that service in the Somerton area. So that covers the revenue schemes. And then just very briefly on the capital schemes, the team that deals with those capital schemes isn't available to attend today, so they've given me an update, which I'll just kind of read through those key points for you. So you'll recall on the capital schemes, we've kind of got 3 areas that we're investing in. The first one being the Green Waves, which is all of our bus priority measures. So the Taunton Green Waves West, which is Wellington Road, is currently in detailed design. The first section of Green Waves East, which covers kind of East Reach and Hurdle Way, has been through procurement, and that will begin delivery next month. So that's about to start. And then the final Green Waves is Green Waves North, which is the kind of the Station Road area of the town, and that's due to begin the detailed design process. So that's kind of where we are with Green Waves. Taunton Mobility Hub. So the Taunton Hub, the detailed design progresses with a programme in place to complete design and approvals ahead of us moving into the kind of the procurement exercise side of things. As I think most of you are aware, a consultation has been undertaken. That consultation has now concluded, and we are just reviewing the results of that and all the feedback. The disability group Wessel has reviewed the initial design, and they've provided feedback which has been incorporated into the detailed design work as well. And a presentation was also given to the Taunton LCN in October to provide an update and kind of retrieve feedback from that group. And then the work is due to be delivered in the autumn of 2025. And then the final capital scheme is the Somerton Mobility Hub, and the design work is ongoing for that, and we're looking at the options. So that's a very brief roundup of where we are with both of those kind of revenue and capital elements. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Natasha. David, I think you've got your hand up. Would you like to ask a question? Sorry, David, did you hear me? Did you like to ask your question? We can't hear you if you're talking. I still can't hear you. Can anybody hear David? No.
No.
No. David, would you like to just check your settings? I'll invite Peter to come in with his question, and then I'll come back to you, David. Peter, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I trust you can hear me.
I can hear you, Peter. Yeah.
Great. The £1 park and ride fare, is that going to continue when funding ends? What's the plan there?
So with that one, we have we have funding for that until the end of March, as we have with all of our schemes. So we will need to do some reviews and work out what happens, if anything, beyond that funding period. I think was fair to say, isn't it, Sam?
So that would apply also to the evening services, which are doing so well, seemingly. And you've got no feedback yet from the DfT on future funding? No,
nothing as yet. I think we're waiting for the kind of autumn budget statement, aren't we, and seeing what comes out of that, but nothing further at this stage.
And on the Greenways scheme, initially we were part of the consultation. Is our plans for that available publicly? Could we, in the Somerset Bus Partnership, be sent an update as to where things are happening and what's happening, a detailed one? Is that possible?
Sorry, Sunita, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I knew you'd be looking at me. Yeah, we can do a detailed update on the Greenways, Peter. I think it's fair to say that what we're doing in terms of a lot of them is a technology solution rather than necessarily a physical bus lane solution, which means that in terms of plans, there might not be much to see, if that makes sense. So upgrading the technology and then using technology on buses to provide priority. We're working with operators to start to make that happen. So in terms of what there is to see, it's I'm not sure what I'd send you, but let's have a conversation about what we can show you. I need to have a chat with the team about what that might look like.
Okay. And finally, on the mobility hub, we were part of the consultation. I'm sure David Redgwell will have things to say on that if he can make contact. But it would be good to be involved in some way. It is obviously such a hugely important issue for Taunton and for the network in that part of Somerset. So if we could be kept in the picture on the Taunton Mobility Hub, timings, who's going to manage it, and which bus services will be operating out of the Mobility Hub, that would all be very helpful.
Yeah, those are all good. Those are all live questions with the team that are working on it at the moment. There's no kind of answers to a lot of those right now, but we're working through kind of what the art of the possible is, if you like.
Thank you, Sunita.
Okay, David, I'll ask you to come back in and just see if you are able to. We're able to hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now, David. Excellent.
Right. So the first thing I wanted to say is about Wessel. I've had great work with them in Bristol, or not. I think First may share this view. They were engaged in designing the Bristol city centre, which was involved in taking a bus. We'll see where this goes at the moment. A bus priority measure out from Marlborough Street bus station, which happens, why I say it's important to Somerset, happens to affect your 374, 375, 376 routes. More about that a bit later. But they were engaged, and it's the same organisation, and they used able-bodied consultants and not disabled people. So all I would ask is we need to have a look at this, and I'm also acutely aware that we need to make sure, as I'm doing some work at Oscourt at Cheltenham at the moment, to make sure that National Express's wheelchair accessible lifts can go up and down on Castle Way, and that can be tested with the operator, and also if Flixbus goes through there as well, which is Barry's coaches. So I'm very concerned about able-bodied consultants. We recently saw First Group use people in a wheelchair that could get out of their wheelchair and walk around St Austell station. So consultants will always bid for work, but you've got to check that there actually are people who are with disabilities, whether they're physical or neuro or whatever. So I just go flag that, and I would like to see the work very much that Westall have provided, bearing in mind the experience we have in Bristol City Centre, which is ongoing, which I don't know whether Somerset joined North Somerset and North East Somerset in objection to that scheme. So on the mobility hub, yes, I mean, obviously we're still looking to see whether you're going to be able to bring in Taunton Town Council for information point, and whether you're going to look at some catering facility there. Bearing in mind, as Peter said, it's not just for Taunton, this mobility hub, or transport hub as I prefer to be called, is also for a great deal of the southwest. Buses go from there into Devon, and also into towards Dorset with connections to Axminster, and also the coach network. It's quite a regional peninsular transport body. Important coach station also for Gateway. So can we just go through that more carefully? And I think maybe a separate meeting, because so far the consultants have failed to turn up on a number of these meetings. And before we start putting spades in the ground and bulldozers, I think with the aid of Mike Rigby as well, we'd like to just make sure that this is the kind of mobility hub. Transport hub. Mobility hub seems a strange name. Transport hub, they seem to be called in the southwest. And to make sure that we've got real time and the information, also run information and coaching information on screens and things. So there's some right details that some of us have worked on these hubs across the southwest. Would like to, and certainly we'd like to talk through. I know Amy Poole's not here from National Express, but I know she's a member of this panel. Perhaps we could just pick up those issues. On Somerton, do we have any design work yet for an interchange there? Is it just that shelter improvements of real-time information and passenger interchange? Just be interested, of course, and also with the bus station in Taunton, we need to involve First Group, Stagecoach, and Go Ahead, and Hatch Green as well. Thank you. I'll get shot by Barry if I don't mention it, from RMT. Staff accommodation, which the Department for Transport and Louise Haig expects to be of a quality, and we know the industrial dispute with First was not just about money, as Janet Bell has made very clear to me, the CEO. We've talked a lot personally about this. It's also about passenger facilities, but it's also about staff facilities at Yeovil and Taunton, and we need to get those right if we're to retain public transport workers. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm not going to come back immediately on much of that, but yes, we will do some engagement with you on the mobility hubs, etc. We don't have anything that we can share on Somerton at this point, just because we've had a bit of a hiatus with the project manager who's not been with us for a period of time. So yeah, there's not much that we can share right now. We're working through the process. Any more questions or comments from Natasha? Nope. Okay, I am going to move on to item 5 on the agenda then, which is the coordination of timetable changes and to agree the 2025 dates. And I'm going to invite John Perrett to present on this. I'm hoping John's with us. I haven't seen him yet.
I'm here. I've been here all the time. So
hi, John. Sorry, John. I hadn't seen you on screen. Tony, can I ask you just to mute your mic, please? I'm getting a little bit of feedback from you. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Perrett. I'm Service Manager for Transporting Somerset, and I'm going to talk you through the bus service change arrangements for 2025. So if you bear with me a second, I will share my screen. You can let me know when we can see that.
Yeah, I can see that, John.
Yep. Okay. So this is coordination of bus timetable changes for 2025, and just a bit of a reminder, background. Back at the Bus Advisory Board meeting in July 2023, members agreed to 2 main timetable changes, dates per year, with flexibility maintained for unforeseen emergency operational issues and seasonal changes where it's not possible to confirm the changes at the 2 agreed main dates. The date of changes were agreed for Easter and the beginning of September each year, with exact dates to be agreed at each October board meeting. So the table sets out the proposed timetable, dates, change dates, registrations, consultation and board meetings for 2025. So I'll run through the table quickly for you. The first date in the calendar is 25th of January to the 22nd of February 2025 is the consultation period of 28 days for the first set of changes. From the 28th of January will be the first bus advisory meeting of the year, Q1, where operators will be asked to introduce changes to the board for consideration and discussion. The registration period will then commence on the 23rd of February until the 5th of April, and with the introduction date of the 6th of April 2025. Now, we've checked this date with WECA because there were some issues last year, and at the moment they've confirmed to us that that is their proposed change date, and what we're trying to do is to match our change dates to theirs. If for any reason they change their date, then we will look to amend ours to go in line. But at the moment, our understanding is that the 6th of April is the change date for WECA. The next board meeting will then be Q2 on the 29th of April 2025, and on the 21st of June to the 18th of July 2025, the consultation period of 28 days will commence again, and operators will be invited to the Q3 board meeting on the 24th of June to introduce changes to the board for consideration and discussion. The registration period will then commence on the 19th of July, finishing on the 30th of August. And on Sunday, the 31st of August, service changes will take effect at the second change date of the year. And once again, on the 14th of October 2025, we'll be back at this meeting to agree the specific date changes for 2026. So the recommendation is that operators subject to Somerset CP agree the specific dates for timetable changes and associated consultation and registration periods for 2025 as set out in the table that you can all see on screen, and use the pro forma that they will be provided with in plenty of time to present those proposed changes to the board meetings to ensure clarity on the changes they're proposing. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I will take any comments on that, and then I will move to the operators to ask them for agreement to that. So I've got David, hand up from David to start with.
Hi, yeah, just to say that I think WECA's consultation, which I'm involved with, I think WECA's consultation will move back earlier because as a member of their bus advisory panel, I've asked for that to go back further, and I know that First West of England, Doug Clownbold and Rob have agreed that, and Stagecoach, because we have the mayoral elections, of course, in the north of Somerset for WECA, and possibly North Somerset if the government set them in as part of the devolution deal. But as the network is so intertwined with those I mentioned, 376 and 375 and 374, and their part contracts with Somerset, and also the 172, 173, 171 and the 126, and the D2 and D2X. That obviously we need to work closely with WECA on and North Somerset on the network in the north, because it is literally predicated on running in Bristol and Bath and Westmead, and of course the 20 as well. So yeah, I welcome this, John. I think we just need to make sure we tie the mayor down, not literally, to these dates. And it's a pity that I know, just apologies from Phil Wright, he's still off ill as far as I know at WECA, the bus service improvement plan manager for them and North Somerset. But I thought Ed Hopkins is the connection officer at WECA dealing with this issue. But yeah, I'm fully in with Bruno. I'm sure First will say so, because I know they said this in the bus advisory panel working parties the other day. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Any more comments from anyone before I move to operators? Nope. So I'm going to ask if operators in the room are happy to confirm that they are comfortable with those dates, subject to any changes that might come because of WECA moving their dates because of mayoral elections, etc.
Western England are happy, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Somerset also happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, Stagecoach happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, Southwest Coach is happy. The only one I would say is, for example, as a specific, we've got something like the 81, which we need to tweak. Are you guys happy that we do that outside of this framework? So what size of a tweak are we allowed to do outside of this framework in order for operational reasons such as traffic?
Peter, I think if it's an issue where it's timekeeping and it's not a reliable service, we're happy to look at that. And obviously we'd liaise with the bus partnership about any changes you want to make so that they're fully aware of what's happening. But yeah, I mean, if it needs to be done to make sure the service is running correctly, then we're happy to look at individual changes like that.
Perfect. So we're very happy then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, John.
Is there anybody, I can't see who's on the call, so is there anybody that from the operators who hasn't spoken? No. Okay. Then I will say that the recommendation has been agreed. I think that sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Does the board need to agree this? I'll ask Joe. That's my democratic.
Yeah, you obviously have asked the operators individually, but you can just get them. You've obviously, the recommendation's been proposed and they have all indicated that they're happy. So if you just check that any of them aren't happy, then obviously the recommendation will be agreed.
Okay. Is there anybody that's not happy with this recommendation? Thank you. Then we'll take that as agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. So I'll move to item 6 on the agenda, which is Passenger Satisfaction Survey 2024, and invite Natasha to give us an update on where that is.
Thank you. So just to update everyone on the bus passenger survey. So we have just completed the 2nd annual bus passenger survey. And many of you will remember we used Queenswood last year to facilitate that for us, and we've used them again to run that survey. So the survey period has finished very, very recently. So that ran between the 9th of September and the 28th of September. And we did things slightly differently this year. So last year we surveyed over a 4-week period, 5 days a week. Whereas this year, due to logistics and feedback from Queenswood, we agreed that actually we would survey over a 3-week period, but do 6 days a week. And so we've also taken on board feedback from last year, and we reduced the length of the survey to make it much more user-friendly. I think last year we had more of a booklet, which was about 4 pages when folded up, but actually we put it into an A4 document that was double-sided and much easier for people to use. We also this year added in some town services in Taunton, Bridgewater and Yeovil, which really helped Queenswood. So if their surveyors were out on long routes and then had to have a little bit of a break and there was a long time between the next connection, they were able to hop on the town routes and continue surveying and get some more responses that way. So that worked really well for them. In terms of number of routes surveyed, so this year we managed to survey across 20 routes across the county, which was really good compared to last year's 14 routes. So we managed to increase that this year. And a little bit about the process. So what surveyors were doing, where they were hopping on the buses, handing out clipboards as passengers boarded, let the passengers fill their surveys in, or if anyone needed any help, they would assist them. And then as they left the bus, they collected the clipboards back in. So surveyors can't obviously walk around whilst the bus is in motion, so they had to have this process in place for being able to manage that. So we are still waiting for the official results to come back, but the initial feedback from Queenswood has been really positive. And so far we're expecting around, they're just inputting all the information, but they're expecting around 1,900 responses, which compares to just over 1,200 last year. So we've seen quite a big increase from last year's survey, which is really good. And the general feedback they're giving us is that passengers were largely either satisfied or very satisfied, with only small numbers being dissatisfied, and that normally correlated to a delay in the bus service. So obviously if their bus was running late, then they were less satisfied with the service. And I think that was particularly evident to Queenswood during one of the weekends in the middle of the surveying period, where we had a Taunton Pride event in the town centre. That obviously had an impact on a number of buses. They were running later, and then they got less positive feedback during that time, so they could see that correlation there. But generally, the feedback from Queenswood has been really positive, particularly around the drivers and their helpfulness towards the surveyors and also the passengers. They were really impressed with what they saw kind of out in the field. So really from us, we just want to say a huge thank you to all of the operators who have been involved and supported us, and for their drivers for engaging with us and just making the process a really successful process this year. So like I say, it was overall a really good experience, and we will share the results as soon as we're in a position to do so. So it's really just letting people know what we've done and where we are. So thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. Any thoughts or comments on what Natasha's just mentioned on the survey? No? Okay. I'm going to move on to item 7 on the agenda then. And this is an update from operators on the Taunton £1.50 fare, National £2 fare, and any other relevant updates. So I'll invite operators to speak. Shall I go to Peter McNaughton first, as you're on my screen?
Hi everyone, thanks ever so much for that. As it stands at the moment, I was kind of hoping that maybe you might be able to put some information our way first, as this information about the fares from the Transport Secretary. It's relatively new, so I'd like to get your impressions first, if you don't mind.
I don't think at this point we've had any feedback, any information, Peter, on that from the Transport Secretary. We are waiting, like everybody else is waiting, on the budget at the end of October, and then to see kind of what falls out of the budget at the end of October. So we've not got any information that you haven't got.
I think it's prudent at this point that we kind of just try to get as much information as possible before we make any sort of comment, if that's okay with yourself.
Yeah, of course, and you know, any time that we've had the opportunity to put feedback into Department for Transport in the recent months, we've been saying how much we value kind of both the BSIP funding and the £2 fare and the other funding that has come into the bus industry. So I think we've been trying to push the agenda with ministers as we've been feeding back to them, but we've had nothing from them thus far.
Good morning, Sunita. If I could come in there as well. Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks,
of course, Rebecca.
Good morning to everyone. So Rebecca Mantic, the Operations Director across First South for the First Bus Group. So since May, this is just overall really in terms of numbers. So since May, we have seen a steady decline, it's fair to say, with passenger numbers below last year. However, what is a positive on that is we have seen the consistency now and holding those numbers. So with regards to the £1, the £1.50 fare scheme. So since the change in June, we have seen again a decline around 10% in terms of passenger numbers prior to the change coming in June. But again, we are holding those numbers since then. So that's my update on that particular topic. Thank you, Sunita.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm trying to see who else is on the call and who else I should. Does anybody else want to come in while I'm trying to see who's on the call? David.
Yeah, well, passenger numbers, actually, from what I've seen and monitored and looked at in Taunton, rely on punctuality and reliability. And if services are getting cancelled, and lists of cancellations keep coming up on bustimes.org, then we're going to hemorrhage passengers, and you get stability into the network. And there's an issue in Taunton. I still don't understand that issue when I see services cancelled. So it's always say we've got a declining network, but marketing and particularly punctuality, reliability and driver reliability, not just pulling services. Now, if they're stuck in traffic, that's one thing. The green wave's supposed to be happening and to help that. But otherwise, it's about making sure staff and resources and inspectors and supervisors are on the parade and making sure those vehicles run. And that's something I think needs to be worked through with First Group PLC South and the council, because I do want to see that reliability and punctuality. I hate to see these lists of services come out, almost like First Great Western on a bad day, of services not running in the Taunton area. I appreciate the country services seem to be a lot better. We don't seem to see Miners cancelled like we used to, or Wellingtons, or the 21 being cancelled up to Burnham with connections to Western. But all right, and it's very rare we see First West of England services out of Taunton being cancelled. So whether that's a discussion we need to have with Barry West at the RMT, as well as First, but that's an action point I simply want to see addressed with Richard Wilkins, and I've spoken to Richard about this as well.
Thank you, David. You know, we regularly work with the operators to understand where the challenges are. So I hope we're getting that information and we're acting on it where we can. But we'll pick up on action just to have another conversation, just make sure that we're doing everything we can between us. So can I call on Peter Ferry from South West Coaches now to just invite any comment really on £1 on fares and any other updates you might want to provide?
Yeah, we haven't, not a huge amount. I mean, we're all sat here on tenterhooks, really, trying to work out what's going to happen in the future. With regards to passenger numbers, I think David's absolutely right. Passenger numbers have a massive reflection on reliability, as well as other things that are happening with regards to the £2 fare. So we are holding passenger numbers. We have no real plans as we stand, other than small tweaks to our network with regards to trying to make it more punctual and reliable. And we wait to see what the government does, and hopefully in 15 days' time we might actually get some idea, because it's ridiculous. We can't plan, we can't do anything, because we're so close to a change without knowing what's going to happen with something that has such a massive effect on our funding realistically. So yeah, no update. Sorry, I wish I could say more, but I really don't have a huge amount for you.
That's fine. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you saying that. Thank you. So I think Dan from First West of England is on the call.
Hello. Yeah, sorry,
Hi,
we didn't
Dan.
come with much. Looking at everything we operate over Somerset, our passengers are slightly improved from last year. And the lines are slightly overlapping. There's not a massive jump, but with so many service numbers changing around, it's probably not a clear picture, to be honest.
Okay, thank you, Dan. That's helpful to know that it's not clear there either. And I think there was someone from Stagecoach on the call. I didn't see who it was that popped up earlier.
Yeah, hi, that's me.
Hi, Chris.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we fall more under the £1 cap in Taunton, which has been pretty consistent I think in terms of the passenger numbers. There was a bit of an uptick over the summer months, which seems to have continued into September, which is interesting and encouraging to see. But yeah, again, like everyone else, more generally, of course, you know, it's just waiting the next steps, both in terms of fare cap and BSIP funding as well, and you know what happens to those taps.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Anybody else want to comment on this item? David, you've got a hand up. I think that might be from previously.
Well, all it was I was going to say is in the work that I've seen from the Department for Transport, they've asked the operators to come up with two scenarios. One is a £2.50 increase, and the other is a £3 scenario. Department's working those through, and they will go forward to the budget at the end of the month. Regarding BSIP, I understand there will be an announcement on further bus service funding from Secretary of State. So I wouldn't say we're going to fall off a cliff edge. I think Louise Haigh and Simon Lightwood get the situation. I think the Prime Minister gets the situation. So just wait and see the situation. But obviously, useful to have at the next meeting what the operators propose with networks when they know what money's available from the Treasury. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. That was useful, because I think you've got more insight than we've got, or some of us have got at the moment. So thank you, that's helpful. Any more thoughts or comments on this item before I move on? Linda, I'm going to invite you to speak, but I don't think you're a board member, are you?
No, probably not.
No. So quickly, if you can, Linda.
I'm going to be quick. It's just about the reliability. Every single operator is mentioning that, but I think we're failing to see that some of the problems here are actually to do with the roadworks, and that is having a huge impact on reliability and services. And I just wanted to highlight that although we're talking about the bus operators' reliability, I think we've got a general big issue, which is our roadwork systems, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I know roadworks are disruptive for everyone. Unfortunately, we do have to do roadworks. There are, we have to maintain the utilities, etc. The utilities have to maintain their services, so there does need to be roadworks at times. But appreciate that they need to be done with as limited impact as possible. So yeah, take the point. Thank you. If there's nothing else on item 7, I'm going to move on to item 8 and invite Peter Travis to just give us an update from the bus user and stakeholder group.
Thanks, Sunita. Just picking up on what Linda says, reliability and the operators. Reliability is absolutely crucial. I know that the bus operators are working very hard to improve reliability. I was in a meeting with First South only yesterday, and they emphasised just how much effort is being put in on that point. And it's not made any easier by roadworks. I up here in the Frome area, and the Frome-Bath link has been caused loads of problems for bus operators, especially with the D2, D2X, and we're stuck with the same roadworks for the next 5 months. So straight through to the April the 6th change date, I think, and perhaps immediately after that we might get that road opened again. One of the major benefits of the enhanced partnership is that the change date and the service changes are agreed by the Somerset Bus Advisory Board, as we've just experienced, a board on which self-evidently the bus users through the Somerset Bus Partnership is represented. It's worth noting that during the Somerset Catch the Bus month, we held 45 events throughout Somerset to promote buses. And in fact, we've held almost 100 events during 2024, which is far more than any other local authority has experienced. And we've had a lot of support. We've had a lot of support, particularly from First South, First West of England, Hatch Green, South West coaches, with them often sending people to supporters at the bus stalls. And it means then that they're hearing a lot of comments back from bus users, and we certainly do. And so it means that we can talk at these meetings well informed as to what loyal, regular bus users are experiencing. And so, as part of the enhanced partnership, First Group has reached out to the Somerset Bus Partnership and invited our suggestions for route enhancements and modifications. We do, of course, have to be responsible in what we propose and be aware of the financial challenges of running a bus service in a rural area like Somerset Council area. So last week, we again submitted our proposals to First South, and yesterday, and this is for next April, and yesterday we met with 3 of their directors to start to consider the issues that will determine the changes come April 2025. And we're about to, in fact, I've just sent our proposals to First West just before this, West of England, just before this meeting, and we'll be meeting them tomorrow to start that consultation process. We really do welcome the approach that both the first companies have adopted in talking to bus users, coming to our bus stalls and talking to our representatives and our senior team. And though April the 6th is nearly 6 months away, the consequences of any route changes are significant for bus operators and indeed for their loyal customer base. And any change needs to be carefully and requires detailed planning and careful implementation. Sometimes different vehicles are going to be required depending on the nature of the changes. It's worth mentioning that in Q1 2025, of course, First South will be getting the first of what will be 26 new electric buses coming into service in the Somerset Council area. And I'm sure everybody's looking forward to seeing those, and it's a major step forward. And again, I think First Group to be congratulated on the investment they've put in, as well as the Zebra funding from the government. But to return to the challenges we face, 3 months after the general election, we still don't know what the government policy on buses will be. David may well be well informed, but is apparent from the comments of the bus operators and indeed from Sunita, it's not yet clear what's going to happen. Will the £2 fare be kept, as both the Conservatives and the Lib Dems pledged in their manifestos, but worryingly, Labour made no similar pledge in its manifestos. Rumours, certainly in the Daily Telegraph, now abound that the single £2 fare might be increased by 25% up to £2.50, or even by 50% to £3, or it may be scrapped altogether, either in January at some point in 2025. And given the impact of the £2 fare that we've seen in Somerset, the uncertainty there is a major concern. The £2 fare, of course, offers a particular bonus to rural local transport authorities and to bus users in the Shire counties, as the mileage of rural bus routes tends to be a lot longer. And so for rural bus users, the £2 fare is a particularly good deal. And if it was to be withdrawn, and if we were, heaven forbid, to return to commercial pricing of bus routes, then it would mean a very big increase in bus fares and probably a significant drop in bus usership, which could bring into question the very viability of some of our bus routes in Somerset. So that's why we do need answers from the government. They've only been in power just over 3 months. They didn't say very much in their manifesto about buses, but we now need to know, and that point's been emphasised by the bus operators. So it's all going to be revealed, we hope, in the autumn statement coming out at the end of the month. But of course, the other thing we don't know, again, depends on the government, is BSIP funding. And our BSIP funding runs out in March. There's been talk of a 3-year funding package, but at the moment, we don't know how much Somerset's going to get, or whether the current funding will be continued. I've written this week to a number of our Somerset MPs raising these concerns and hoping that they will lobby and raise these concerns in the House. One thing, of course, that the Labour Party did pledge in its manifesto was to make bus franchising available to all LTAs and to help LTAs facilitate its adoption, but without pledging any extra funds for that bus franchising. Many LTAs are now actively exploring bus franchising, but Somerset Council's initial reaction was far from enthusiastic. in fact, surprisingly negative. Surprising given that the council is a Lib Dem council, and the Lib Dems, of course, do support bus franchising. So we hope that Somerset will look constructively at bus franchising, talking to neighbouring local transport authorities just to see if the benefits of bus franchising could be made viable in Somerset, which would be, I think many would argue, to the benefit of bus users in our county. But the current uncertainty must be a concern for not only the bus operators, not only the council officers in Somerset, but for bus users. And it's not good that there should be uncertainty, but there is at the moment, and we do need it to be resolved. Hopefully Louise Haigh will answer those questions in the next 3 weeks, and we'll know the way forward. And let's hope it's an exciting one for Somerset. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And can I thank you and colleagues on the bus user group and for all the work that you do in promoting bus use in Somerset. I think you do an amazing job, and just the sheer numbers of events that you turn out to is fantastic. So thank you all for your time and your input. I think it's wonderful.
Can I add an operator's voice to that as well?
Of course, Peter.
Thank you to all the time that people give. I mean, realistically, we would have been in a worse situation had these bus user groups not given their time and their effort to it. So we do, as operators, truly appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've got a hand from David. Would you like to come in, David?
Yeah, I just want to clarify a few things. I mean, first of all, Labour has made it clear that it wants to support the bus services from a passenger perspective. Secondly, it's made it clear in a bill that's not before the House at the moment, there's going to be a bus bill, a major piece of legislation, along with the Great Britain's Railways Bill. There is a consultation out about franchising at the moment, which will make it easier to franchise. But equally, Labour's also committed to enhance quality partnerships across South West England. And the Peninsular Transport Board, which I attended, and Western Gateway, when Ben, our new DFT, who lives in Charfield, by the way, DFT official that runs the region, asked about franchising. I don't think any South West council, from Cheltenham to Penzance and to Bournemouth, is saying they're going to franchise the bus network. And even WECA has produced a paper which perhaps should be circulated, explaining what they're considering in the north of Somerset and in their area with North Somerset. They also find it very difficult. And the reason being is you obviously have to buy the resources from First Group and Stagecoach and other operators and depots and resources, and buying Wells Bus Garage or buying Western Supermare Bus Garage or Bath Bus Garage. I think Bristol Council already own the other two in Bristol. But, you know, buying Taunton, buying Minehead, buying Yeovil, what remains going to be at Yeovil, buying operator depots in Somerset, possibly something in Bridgewater. It's going to be extremely expensive on a council that hasn't got a lot of money. And these are the issues that we need to go through in the real world. You know, we're in a public expenditure crisis. So, yeah, the Labour is pushing ahead with franchising. It's an option, but enhanced quality partnerships are on that agenda as well. And they're also, but the one thing Labour won't have is it will not have failing bus services. If operators do continue to fail, then there will be many more remedy methods used in a way perhaps the previous administration weren't prepared to with private companies. So we've seen that with the proposals for the taking back First Great Western and First South Western next year into public ownership. So just make that point, but I'm not aware of any proposals by the present administration in London to suddenly pull money out of the bus industry or to return it to a commercial market. In fact, that is totally in the opposite direction. The modelling I said to you, and you know, the operators here have been doing the modelling. First Group PLC and Stagecoach PLC have been doing the modelling, so it's no state secret of a £2.50 or a £3 proposed fare. WECA have extended their BSIP operation by another year, which of course Somerset could talk to the Department for Transport about, they will end their BSIP operation in 26. It's not as but the other issue, of course, is infrastructure. I don't know what that passenger survey said. Sorry, I was pouring my tea when I heard that. But if there's a passenger survey that says infrastructure in Somerset, or whether it's going into the north, to be honest with you, that's not fantastic either. Then bus shelters that are not maintained and bus stations that are not being properly looked after, there must be an issue there, because that's not what I hear. You see, I hear on the ground the Wells bus station needs a lot of work on it. It needs to be kept clean. The time tells the information. Rosa's always talking to me. I know Thomas Hughes, who we got a lot of respect for, gets the flack of all of that. And I know that passengers in Somerset say about the state of Bath interchange and the state of that, the cleaning, the quality of Baines Council. But it's a mixed ownership up there and not easy to deal with. But the state of that comes up, and certainly I've had angry of Wells onto me, and angry of Shepton Mallet, and angry of Radstock, Midsummer Norton, telling me about the state of Bath bus station, which I pass on to Baines and First regularly, and I think I copy copy Natasha in on as well, and John. So I would be interested to know what the survey says about infrastructure. On funding, the one thing I am concerned about, because it's falling through the legislation, and Richard Wilkins chaired the last board meeting, by the way, of the Peninsula, is coaches. You've lost the 503, which is obviously the London to North Cornwall, which goes through Taunton, Oakhampton, Launceston and Newquay, down to Penzance. And National Express, and we've also lost the Scottish City Link megabus service to North Devon, which Stagecoach Southwest used to provide. And these rural coach links are quite important. I know David Nordy, who's obviously on the call as well, is very concerned about this. But that is not covered in finances, and both regional transport boards, Gateway and Peninsula, are concerned about the coach funding situation in South West England, as are a number of the MPs. So I just think I flag that to Somerset, working with Peninsula and Gateway, that we need to make sure that, because the Falcon, I think, well, Peter's answered the question, it's registered, I believe, with Bus Service Improvement Plan money or BSIP money, BSOG money, from Plymouth to Bristol. And certainly it's the main link if you're trying to get from Wellington, Bridgewater, Taunton, to Exeter, or you want to go north into Bristol, there, East Brent, it calls out. That is the main link into Bristol city centre or the airport, and it is actually a stagecoach. It's a regular bus service up the A38. And Sonia, I know the work's being done on that road with North Somerset to improve some of the. Yeah, I'm getting good nods. Thank you. To improve that, but I'm worried about that sort of service, because it's the only 24/7 service you really have in rural Somerset, and by that I mean the whole of Somerset, the historic county. But it's not in a sort of funding stream other than through BSIPs and through councils. But I know Devon and Somerset, Plymouth are worried about that service. I'm glad it's still with Stagecoach. I was quite concerned because Stagecoach pulled out of Megabus. But the other thing that I was asked to raise with you is the state of the. We've got good bus shelters in Wellington. We've got reasonable shelters in Bridgewater, in fact a new one by Highways England, but we haven't got a really good bus facility for Megabus and the Falcon at Riverside at the by the garage there. It's pretty bleak. I've waited there many times for it. They treat me well, Peter, with the wheelchair lift, but it needs to be improved. So I am a bit concerned what this survey says about passenger facilities. The buses are better. They're much cleaner. First, it's gotten clean standards on Stagecoach, and First are getting a lot better. Thank you, Peter Norton. But infrastructure does worry me, and the information on bus stops is still quite an issue that comes up. And I know we've got graffiti, but that was raised with Claire Moody the other night, who was concerned about the damage, criminal damage, and shelters. And we even got. Yeah, some of it is awful. We've had it taken down, hate crime stuff, nasty anti-gay stuff, nasty racist stuff, even in Somerset, even in, and thanks for the people that removed that, by the way, in Somerset and also in North Somerset and Baines. But yeah, So those just the survey points I'm just concerned about, but I don't want to paint a group that there's going to be a terrible budget that's going to come out and bash up all the bus passengers. And let me just spell another rumour that's going around, because Louise Hay made a statement the other morning. There is no provision to remove the disabled bus pass or the older person's bus pass for free travel by this present administration in London. So there is all sorts of things whooshing around out there. What would be useful is to have a meeting of Somerset Bus Partnership, and in our first group and Stagecoach and others to attend, Peter, and also with the advisory board to just go through the issues after the budget, but don't assume everything's in the budget. What you will then get is a spending review, and the spending review in April will announce projects like possibly Wellington Station, like the Portishead Railway Line, like money for bus stations. But we haven't mentioned today is Yeovil Bus Station. I'm pleased that that is progressing, and I'm pleased that now Mike Rigby's back in command. We've got toilets being moved in portable facilities and staff arrangements, but I think we still need to talk that through. And just for the record, although he's down in Cornwall doing some work with me at the moment, Barry West, who I know everybody either loves or hates, he's like Marmite person, but he's very effective in what he does for public transport in South West England. Trying to save a bus station in Cornwall at the moment, at Padstow. But if we can have a conversation with yourself or with your team to see if we can go forward with the issues of staff facilities at Yeovil and make sure that staff facilities are available at Taunton. I know RMT would like to meet with Somerset Direct as well as meeting with First, and I do thank Peter for the work and the work that Janet Bell and myself. Yes, I did get involved in those industrial disputes, and particularly not the money. That's up to First to sort out, but certainly I will get in very hard on the staff facilities. Thanks,
Thanks, David. Yeah. That was a good roundup. Thank you. Useful. And yeah, we'll look at those points. Thank you. Okay, I will. I'll move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is any other business. Does anybody have any other business that they would like to discuss today? Rebecca.
Yeah, just one from me, just an answer to David Ridgewell. I speak to Barry West daily, so if Barry West wants to come and meet me in Yeovil, I'm absolutely here to do that, which we put the offer to him already. Thanks, David. Thanks, Anita.
Thank you. Oh, Barry's on the call. Hello, Barry. Flurry of hands.
Yes, I am on the call. Thanks very much. Yeah, I've had the offer and I am going to Yeovil. We can say that some minor improvements have been done, but we understand why that happened up at Yeovil. So I am meeting the engineering director up there. We obviously can't be in a situation where staff are left with such appalling and disgraceful welfare conditions as they were in the past. But we have to shut the door on that, if you like, and move forward and look forward to opportunity. We have to look forward to improvements, and we have to look forward to working with you all to ensure that we get the right outcomes and that we design a new bus depot and facilities both for the public and for those that work there and those who visit. So I think there's opportunity. David spoke well. David did help to support that campaign for improvement. And I'm sure that Rebecca's on your day. She will work with us to make sure that we have facilities fit for purpose going into the future. But we can't simply have a replacement of what we got, because replacing what we got simply didn't cut the mustard, to be honest with you. It wasn't acceptable. It wasn't up to standard. But I'm sure and positive that going forward, if we all work together, all pull together, and we all know what it is that we want, we will achieve what is best for everybody. So thanks for inviting me on. I will say one thing. I can't speak for Somerset. I have asked for statistics on it. When we talk about reliability, it's not just about the roads. It is very much about staff as well. It's about the engineering of buses, maintenance, repairs, all those different things. And of course, if companies have staff retention problems, if companies have recruitment problems, we need to look at recruitment and retention. It's very, very important we get that right, that we measure it, we monitor it, we know what's going on, because if there are any issues, we need to understand about how we can collectively fix that. But there are many, running the bus operations are obviously complex, and it takes all of us to be all pulling in the same direction to get the right outcome and the best result for everybody. We want this to be a win-win for everybody. But thanks for inviting me. And I can say, I don't know if you're going to do the same in Somerset, but they've installed electric vehicle chargers. They've got some funding for that. They've done that down in Cornwall. I hope that possibly if they have got site to do that in Somerset, that will happen. I think that's a huge benefit to the public, and also it helps to support the bus companies. But I say, well done for doing that in Cornwall. Let's hope something similar can happen in Somerset, because the electric vehicle charging network out there really is not good enough. And if the bus companies and the councils can do anything to support that, that would be amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Peter, do you want to come in? Oh, Peter, you're on mute. Sorry.
A couple of detail points. Is the new GWR bus integration manager, Nicholas Reed, being invited to these meetings? Joe, I wonder if you could just check. And somebody who I know isn't invited so far, but I think ought to be invited, the chair of Travel Watch Southwest, David Northey, given his role across the Southwest, I think he ought to be invited to these meetings as well. Perhaps Joe could look into that.
I thought David was on the call. I thought I saw him join earlier.
Yes, he is, but
not in that capacity.
Not as a full member. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll look into that. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks.
David.
So this is the issue I want to raise with you, Sonia, because I am concerned, and yeah, I am pretty close to first agreement on this. Bristol City Council, when I spoke at their meeting the other night, are proposing to remove a lot of the bus services from the Broadmead area of the city. So you can say, well, how does that affect Somerset? Well, it affects Somerset quite substantially. The 376, 375, 374, which routes of which I fully support, being long distance routes, which are also supported by Western Gateway and Peninsulas, because we're trying to build regional routes, and also 24 with Phil across to Salisbury to Frome, and up from Frome to Chippenham, to name a couple of regional routes, as well as the routes that go down to Exeter with Falcon, and also to Tiverton with First and with Stagecoach, and also the 30, which connects through to Weymouth, although we need to market them more. So the issue here is that the buses that come in from Somerset and North East Somerset will be rerouted away from the Broadmead shopping centre. They won't longer come through the High Street. They won't go through Union Street, but will go out towards St Mary's Redcliffe and in through the centre, taking bus passengers further away from the main shopping district, from the main areas of central Bristol, other than the bus station close to the hospital. Now, people in Mendip District Council area rely on Bristol and Bath as their centres. They don't rely on Taunton. I've lived up there, so I understand the dynamics of how it works. So all I'm asking is, they were also going to remove the right turn. I don't know whether First or West of England want to say anything, but right turn at Bristol bus station. So the buses were no longer to turn towards the city centre and towards Somerset, North Somerset. They were actually going to go round the roundabout, and that include all the National Express movements, making it a longer journey out of the city in the congestion of the traffic of central Bristol. So all I'm saying is, can we ask, I know Peter Travis, well, Rosa Kell is all over this, to be fair, as much as I am, but can we just make sure that we're talking to Bristol and Councillor Ed Plowden and Wecker about these proposals, John, and how they affect Somerset services, because delaying buses in and out of Bristol. And besides that, people want to go to the shops. They don't want to go and be dumped somewhere on the edge of the city centre, or the bus station's fine. But once they leave Temple Meads, they're going to go on a quite a long diversion. I don't particularly think they should go via the city centre and back on that route round, nor do I believe the Bath buses and Keynsham buses should be doing the same. So perhaps we can have this conversation. I know North Somerset's engaged in the conversation and Baines, but I just want to flag it today. It's out for consult. It's been through consultation, but I'm sure through local government, Somerset can talk to Bristol and understand these proposals. I think they're backing off the proposal to shut that right turn, which will affect National Expresses coming down into Somerset and Flix buses. But I would urge that to be discussed. I know first, and I support their objections, and I support the objections by National Express and others are opposed to that. Some of those proposals, yeah, they'll go to public inquiry if they don't sort it. But perhaps just to flag, it affects Somerset passengers, and I know Rosa is extremely concerned on bringing David Nordy into the thing. Certainly, David should be on here. He's one of the regional players like myself, and we do a lot of work. And he's also, there's no Taunton representative effectively here since we haven't got a town council representative from Taunton either, and he's involved with that. Thanks.
Thanks, David. I don't know anything about that changes in Bristol city centre, so I'll ask colleagues and we'll see what we can find out and get involved with that. Thank you. Any other business this morning? Thank you. Got no hands. I can't see any hands. So at that point, I've got item 10 on the agenda, which is the date of the next meeting. And the next meeting will be Tuesday, the 28th of January, 2025. Seems strange to be saying 2025. And this is just a reminder to operators in the room that they'll need to bring their proposed schedule changes to that meeting. So that's the 28th of January 2025, and it will be via Teams as this meeting has been. Thank you everybody who's attended today and for your input, and look forward to seeing you in the next few months. And if I don't see you before Christmas, have a good Christmas. That's also a strange thing to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and I wish you so much soon.